Hey, Shalom. First, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the whole elected house of David. Let's get into this. There is power in numbers. There is power in numbers, because have have y'all ever had this situation where you was at school, you know, you was at school and there was this one family, they was they was kin to each other, brothers, sisters, cousins and stuff, and no one wanted to pick with them, you know? And no one wanted to pick with them. Because what? They knew they would get jumped. They knew that they family had their back, you know? You know? So I ask you, how much more your spiritual family, you know? How much more your spiritual family? Because what Yahweh Shai said, he said, who is my mother and who is my brother? Those that do the will of my Father is the same as my mother, brother, sister. You know? So how much more your spiritual family? But I say power, there's power within number, because you got to remember how back in the day that Edomite police would break up Jake when they saw them in all numbers. They'll go and break them up. They'll always go and harass them. But when like an Edomite group, walking down the street, there's nothing wrong. They'll probably get a, hey, how you doing? You guys all right, man? You guys look good, you know? Because there's still this, perception on our people when we're gathered together, even in our own people. Because you probably hear somebody say, hey, we too deep. Look, they afraid to be what? They're afraid to join. They're afraid to join together. They be like, hey, we too deep. We too deep. What do you mean we too deep? You see a group of Edomites and you don't say they too deep. You know. But again, you have to use wisdom and understanding when dealing with them situation, because yes, our people do have that stigma on us, but we shouldn't be afraid to gather together, That's why some people don't want to come out to camps. That's why some people don't want to join camps or stuff like that, because they be like, man, we're a target. You're if you are the 12 tribe, you're a target no matter what you do. No matter where you go and how many numbers there are with you. It could just be you by yourself, or you and a few brothers or a few sisters or whatever. You're still a target. So don't be afraid to gather together, because in these times we're gonna have to be together. The Lord might have you all solo for a while, but you gotta look at our history. None of the prophets was solo forever. You're probably hearing their books that they met with other prophets. Other prophets was following them. They had other disciples following them or something like that. But also you gotta think about the 12 and how Yahweh Shai sent them out. Listen, this is Luke chapter 10, verse 1. After these things, the Lord appointed other 70 also, and sent them 2 and 2 before his face into every city and place where he himself would come. And we know he sent his 12 out in twos and pairs of twos. Why? Because there's strength in numbers. There's strength in numbers. Yes, we're able to do plenty on our own, but it's better when you have help. It's better when you're not alone. It's better when you're not alone. you know, because there's power in numbers, you know. Like, there's no such thing as a lone wolf. They use that title, you know, to say people who solo, you know, who that Sigma male and all that stuff, you know. Some brothers, you know, some brothers can consider me a lone wolf, but I still, break bread with brothers, fellowship with brothers, hang out with brothers. Even sometimes if they need, I go, I take a long ride with them or a trip with them. If a sister would call me up, I do the same for them. Because there's power in numbers, and what we Yahweh said, when two or more are gathered together, I am in the midst. Listen to this. These Ecclesiastes chapter 4. We're going to start from verse 9. Listen. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he have not another to help him up. Again, if 2 lie together, then they have heat. But how can 1 be warm alone? And if 1 prevail against him, 2 shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. You see, that goes into many things. Like, if you're doing this alone, trying to do this alone, you might not see your own faults. You might not see your own faults and have someone to correct you, because correction is love. Correction is love. Rebuke is love. You might not have someone to call out your flaws, call out something you didn't see you was doing wrong or you were going off in. Someone to give you a different perspective according to scriptures. Hell, even if it was your woman, even if it was your woman, hell, that's better than being 1. Cause hell, Eve get down. Hell, we know Eve get down. We got laws in the Bible that say if your woman jump in, if she jump in, just don't kick the nigga in the nuts. Just don't kick the nigga in the nuts. And his family jewels, Even though, we don't teach a woman should get involved, let the man do that. Let the man handle that. But, she might come through with that nail. She might come through with that nail and smash it against, the adversary head, I'm just, speaking. But yeah, 2 are better than 1, So don't be afraid to come together. Don't be afraid to come together. Because you just reminiscing, thinking about, man, if me and my brother was packed up like that in school or in this set or in this area of life, it would have been better. That's why you having children, it's better to have multiple, have more than 1 kid, because that also helps the child in their in their upbringing, because that child is not alone. He have a playmate, she have a playmate, she has someone to talk to on her level or on his level, a friend, That's why Israelites are so damn fruitful, They develop more. They say kids develop more when they're in a social group. Let me just say that for lack of better words. It's more beneficial for the children when they're when they're socializing. Even if that child is not that social, they still, pick up things, learn things, learn how to deal with people when there's more people around, more kids around, you know. Two is better than one, you know. How much more, how much more for someone in the faith, you doing this alone, but then you find someone who believe in the exact thing you believe in it and believe it how you believe it, that's better. That's better, I know the apostles. I remember my elder brothers talking about how the apostles, when they was doing it by themselves, they were like, man, it's a lot of work, where they gonna come from. But then they start seeing counts pop up here and there and there and there, and that gave them joy. What? Because there was more believers coming. There was more appearing, There's power in numbers, not just in all, strength wise, but for the spirit, for the mental. There's power within all numbers. Listen, this coming from a guy who's not that social. I'm not that social. But I understand the benefits that come from it, from a spiritual perspective and a carnal perspective, I can understand, the benefits that comes with that, So yeah, there's power in numbers. So don't be afraid to hit up you if you're a woman. Don't be afraid to reach out to a sister. If you're a brother, don't be afraid to reach out to the brothers or reach out to the camp and see what they got going on and see, hey, how can I support? How can I get involved if it's possible? Is it possible to fellowship? Is it possible to join a camp? If I can't join the camp, is it possible to fellowship? I can show you that, I've been consistent with watching videos, that I can prove myself, that I'm a good brother, so on and so forth, because we're coming to the time where we're gonna have to depend on the body like never before, because what this man has coming, it's gonna be a whole nother level. Hell, it's gonna be robots. Robots is gonna play a part in it. I don't know how advanced these robots are gonna be. In Jacob's trouble, I don't know how advanced these robots gonna be, but they're going to play a part. It's going to be so bad that you're gonna need a man of Yahweh Shemel Shai, a man who has Yahweh Shemel Shai's favor, Cause then it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be so bad that the people are gonna be running to this man's system, this man's smart cities, taking that charagma, that MOTB. It's gonna be so bad. It's gonna be that bad that it's gonna be some people running to it. Running to for safety. And what scripture says, woe unto them that go down for Egypt for help, Cause this is the end times, and it says, scripture says it's gonna be the worst period in existence, So how bad is it gonna be? Cause if you look at history, we had some bad times, some horrible times. But what we're coming to is gonna be, the most horrific time in existence, So, hey, and it's time, reach out to a sister, reach out to a brother, I would advertise myself like, hey, you a sister, holla at your boy. All jokes aside, but y'all connect with each other, y'all connect with each other. Y'all do y'all thing, y'all do what you gotta do. Let me see, can I find that scripture that just popped in my head? Let me see, it says, let Let me see. Oops. I can't think of it, but I'm roughly paraphrasing. It says, seeing the times that we're in, seeing the season or something to that effect, that we should gather together, you know? Roughly paraphrasing, you know? So, yeah. With that, I hope you was edified. Again, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai, double honor to the apostles, to the elders, a great millstone, peace and blessings to hopefully the house of David. Until next time, Yahweh willing, Shalom.